Good evening, and welcome to Soluble. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Soluble, America's Political Central. Today's date is November the 28th in the year of our Lord 2023. We like to start off, first of all, by having a moment of silence for former First Lady Rosalynn Carter. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. May she rest in peace. She was a great first lady for the country, standing by former President Carter's side, championing great causes for the American people and for the world in general. So, we want to honor her, in her timely passing, for a life well lived of happiness and, public service. Second of all, on today, we'd like to belatedly honor or wish the current president, Joseph R. Biden, a happy birthday. We know that the president's birthday was last week. If I'm not mistaken, I think he turned 81. And if we're wrong here at Soluble, we beg your pardon. But nevertheless, a happy birthday to President Biden. Now, Thanksgiving is over. I'm pretty sure that the American people have, enjoyed, feasting, spending time with family. And, it's hard to keep that same spirit going, from the holiday to, back to talking politics again and getting back into the regular everyday groove of American living. But in the spirit of coming together on Thanksgiving, we ought to take careful and long consideration in, trying to solve the political gridlock, the political turmoil that we currently find ourselves in as a country. Now, as we've stated here at Soluble, we're 247 years in as a country, 247 years. And, we want to see another 247 and beyond. The Constitution, the system of laws, the system of checks and balances that have been set up by the framers, it works because it gives all of us a say in the process, if you will, the choosing of a leader. And, for these past 247 years, until recently, there's always been a peaceful transfer of power. One of the, things that have made this democracy so great, a peaceful transfer of power. So we see how it was jeopardized with the last election in 2020. And so in the spirit of bipartisanship and ending polarization, Soluble has come forward with facts, with opinions, and we welcome them all from each and every side, whether it's Republicans or independents. Now, as a staunch Democrat, I have to start, with my fellow party. And, to my fellow Democrats, nothing has changed. As I said, the spirit of family and coming togetherness, it doesn't necessarily have to be over in a figurative sense. We can carry over from Thanksgiving and carry this into our daily, day-to-day lives. The spirit of appreciation, love for one's fellow man. And, just everybody getting involved, we feel like we can reach that political solution that we also desperately want. I mean, I don't think there's no one that wants to see, their lawmakers quarreling. We're beginning to come something close to some of these other countries where, you've seen it come to fisticuffs in the houses of the lawmakers, where the lawmakers gather. So, we don't want to see that happen. So in the spirit and for the sake of country and countrymen, Soluble has come forward with what we hope will be a solution through fact-finding, through opinion. Now, as we've stated, there's two ideals here. One is conservative, one is liberal. One is Democrat, one is Republican. And for the longest, these two parties regardless of which one has been in power, has governed the land and kept the country moving forward. And, we've come to a time now where our colleagues on the right, it's hard for them to make the case. It's hard for them to make the case, which is what you need to do when you're in democracy and or republic where the majority rules. And, to my Democratic voters and to the American public in general, it's going to be up to us regardless of party. It could be something that's going on in the Democratic Party that doesn't look good for the future of America. I mean, we're talking about, the president now is, he's too old. He's beyond his years. He's being attacked with this ageism. And, it's sad to see because the president is keeping things functioning and moving as far as the United States of America goes and the way it's been done for years and years and years. But, let's not kid ourselves. We're turning the page to a new generation of leaders. And, we see what's before us. We have drug crisis. We have mental health crisis. We have things we need to tighten up at the southern border. We have our foreign adversaries and allies alike. So, there's a lot of things that, we need to constantly have stewardship over in order to keep this democracy, however slow, however slog fest it may be, moving forward, not bringing it to a standstill. And so, young voters, it matters. Right now, there is a situation going on over in the Middle East that has, not necessarily divided the country, but there are some real heated opinions on both sides. And so, going into the next election, we see and know now that the Middle East is actually on the ballot as far as foreign policy. What are we going to do here? And, we have defectors on both sides. A lot of Republicans are retiring after their term is up, saying they won't seek election. On our side, we have, Senator Manchin saying that he's bowing out, and that, now here's a guy who's been a Democrat all his life, but because this new age of Democrats are coming in, which some have labeled as progressives, AOC +3, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez +3, and this is what the voters are saying. Because AOC +3, there's no way that they can serve in the halls of power if they haven't been sent up by the voters in their districts, in their states. And yet, you have Senator Manchin here. He's bowing out. He's defecting out of the party, by his own account, that that Joe Biden has went way left. And what he's forgetting is that this is a government of the people, for the people, by the people. And as I stated, AOC plus these three, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley, they've been sent up by the voters. They've been sent up by the voters, and this is the way it has always worked. So, there's no time for us as Democrats to get discouraged. And more than anything, it's time to toe the line. It's not time for defection. I mean, we have to find a way to reach across the aisles. Don't get me wrong. We have to find a way to govern across the aisle with our Republican colleagues. But at the same time, when we have the power as Democrats, we have to remember more than anything, what's more important than appeasing Republicans who may be disgruntled across the aisle and making veiled threats or what have you. What's the most important thing that we can do as Democratic voters and politicians when we have the power is to do the will of the voters that sent you up there and put you in power, that sent you up on the hill and into the halls of power in Washington. This is the number one thing that we must remember. And so, I say that because oftentimes we get distracted with, the noise that's coming from the right that may have us thinking that, maybe have us second guessing. Or maybe thinking, are we doing the will of the American people, questioning what our own agenda is. Those of you who are Democrats, who are holding office right now. You know what you campaigned on. You know what you told the voters in your districts. And so this is what the people are expecting. And one thing I would have to say, to my fellow Democrats, now more than ever, after former President Trump, we have to stiffen our spine for the sake of defending the republic. Open up the vote, let the chips fall where they may, have the vote safeguarded, have security checks in place. We know that there was no evidence, no matter what case, that the former president's lawyers or what have you tried to make in saying that the election was stolen. We had a system of checks and balances. Bring forth the evidence, and you will reclaim the Oval Office. But there was no evidence brought forward. No evidence brought forward. Yet and still, we still have some of our colleagues on the right that's clinging to this false notion, this made-up story that somehow, some way, the election was stolen. And it's all a result of a sore loser type mentality. We know that, Republicans have a burning passion in defense of, what's best for the republic. We don't doubt that. But you make the case to the American voter, and on election day, you let the chips fall where they may. That's the way it's always been. And so, to my fellow Democrats, we have to stiffen up now. We have to encourage our president that we've sent up to Washington and put in the Oval Office to go dark Brandon, stay dark Brandon, for the sake of defending democracy. Because here we are on the verge. We're on the verge, whether you're paying attention or not, on the verge of seeing whether democracy is going to prevail, or whether it's going to fail. That's where we are. The former president, who by all polling indications will be the nominee for the Republican Party, doesn't have a clue. And, he's shown himself to be unfit for office. But yet and still, that's who the Republican voters want. That's their guy. And we don't hold that against him. What we should be doing as Democrats is rallying more than ever, because we know what, we're defending. We look around at the current state of things. There's work to be done, as I said, crime, foreign policy issues, opioid crisis. There's work to be done. We have to secure the border. We've seen, whether it's the act of the Biden administration or not, we've seen where they've actually closed some of the borders. I think in Arizona and Texas, if I'm not mistaken. But they actually closed down the border. That's a good move. That doesn't signal a president who is too old for the job. It doesn't indicate a commander-in-chief who is beyond his years. It indicates more than anything that he's on top of things, that he's pushing all the right buttons. Now, of course, we are a land of immigrants, but we do have laws. We do have laws and rules in place for those who are seeking to gain citizenship in the country. And, we must abide by those laws. We must enforce those laws strictly, or we will cease to be a United States of America. But by no means, does it indicate, or does it show any signs that the president is beyond his years. Now, the Republicans will make the case. I think we're going into, if I'm not mistaken, the fourth debate coming up here at some point in time in December. Now, as I said, the former president is the leading nominee to represent the Republican Party, and yet and still he's a no-show. He's a no-show, and so Democrats, It's not for us to ring the alarm, but we have to sit up and take notice because we're talking about a democracy, a republic where every candidate that has ran for this highest office of the land has came forward and made the case to the American people. And this is the first time in history. This is the first time in history. So, for someone who loves the country, as the former president claims, we don't understand why he's breaking so many of the institutional norms. Why he's going against so many of the institutional norms when they have brought us this far. And if the former president sees something or knows something that we don't, then that would seem as if he would be all the more eager to come forth and make the case to the American people as to why we shouldn't trust government. You can't have it both ways, as we've always stated. And this is where we have to call our fellow Republicans out at. You can't have it both ways. And so this is something that we've never seen before. Just another reminder, we've never seen this where the president it's a mess out here by his own account. By the former president's own account, things are a mess right now in America. It's really messed up. But yet and still, he won't come forward. And on the debate stage, we see him at his rallies, surrounded by his reporters, his supporters, where he can say no wrong. He can do no wrong. And we see him at these rallies surrounded by his supporters, saying any and everything. And, he's right now as it stands, and we won't know until next year this time, but right now as it stands, he's speaking to a minority of we the people. Now, if he wants a chance, if he wants to sway voters who may be on the fence, Democrats who think that, he may have some good things going and they may just, vote for the other candidate because he just happens to be the best candidate running. You would think that the former president would come out and make that case. But yet and still right now, as of right now, it's crickets. There's nothing. There's nothing. And so this is something to take notice of. A few of the things that are currently going on, before we take a deep dive into the issues, if you will, the issues. And some of them I've just stated, there are many. We'll just, deal with the current political climate as it is right now. Nothing in this two-tier system or this so-called two-tier system, as it's been labeled by our colleagues on the right, nothing is indicating that there's any evidence of the president's involvement. Right now, they went from Hunter, his son, to his brother. If I'm not mistaken, his name is James. But as of now, in this so-called two-tier system, there's nothing that indicates that there's anything that rises to the level of impeachment. So are they still there? And if so, why? How much deeper can you dig before you realize that, this is a waste of the taxpayers' money? Let's move on. The guy's clean. If it's there, it's there. And it would have been brought forward by now. Or are they trying to manufacture something? Or are they trying to find a witness that they can coach? And having to orchestrate a false testimony against the president? These are the things that are going on right now. On the Democratic side of the aisle and or the Republican side of the aisle, we called it out. We're looking at the current state of things. The commander-in-chief is Democrat. The Senate majority belongs to the Democrats. And the buck stops with us. Now, to be a bigger party for the sake of country, for the sake of country only, we have to hold our leaders to an account going forward, because our colleagues on the right are looking for any and everything. They're looking for an aha moment. They're looking for that aha moment because they can't beat us on policy. They can't attack the president on policy. Gas prices are low. The automakers have won, when it comes to the strike. They've won. They've got higher wages. The Screen Actors Guild, they went to the negotiating table in Hollywood, and dealing with the future of AI and what have you. The president just met with China last week, and something that I wasn't thinking about at the time. I'm not sure how many of you, the American people, were, and not to say that it caught us off guard, but the president, brought up in this meeting with Xi Jinping, trying to establish military communication once again, and one of the most important issues, fentanyl, that may be being shipped out of China into the United States of America. That doesn't sound like a commander-in-chief who's beyond his years or is asleep at the wheel. And so, Democrats, we have to, let the American people know, those who may be on the fence, those who may not be sure or certain of which way to go. This is a very important issue. Here in the city of Jacksonville alone, I've read somewhere here in the last couple of days, in the city of Jacksonville, Florida, there's been 400 overdose deaths. 400. And so, from one world power to another, the president, is definitely on his P's and Q's on what it takes to, if anything, strengthen ties, to, let the leader of China know that, the commander-in-chief of the United States of America is fit to serve. He's on his job. And this is what you see in the Democratic circles. The majority, as far as the House of Representatives, that majority belongs to our fellow Republicans. The border's in crisis. Wages are somewhat stagnant still. And there's work to do. And we're looking for, legislation, bill proposals, they're ready to bring to the floor, for a vote. Let's forget about this notion that whatever they bring forward is dead on arrival in the Senate. This, my fellow Democrats, is where we need to, bring forth a new form of democratic government. If we see, there's a least bit of a way we can work with our Republican colleagues, we owe it to the country to reach across the aisle and try to find a compromise somewhere, where we can maybe meet somewhere in the middle. Now, that middle may be center left, because we control 2/3 of the government right now. And the voters want what they sent these politicians up to, Capitol Hill and to Washington for. The reasons that they sent them up there based on what they campaigned on and their positions. The voters want that, and they should get it. Now, that's not to say, our colleagues on the right be damned. That's not to say that. But we are the majority, so the majority rules. It always has, and it always will. And so we lest we forget, we'll be the ones, come next year this time, sitting in the minority when it comes to government power in a lot of areas. Most fearfully, the Oval Office. And we know by Republican accounts. And you've never seen this. You've never seen a never Busher. You've never heard of a never Reaganer. And so even on this coming from our colleagues from the right, you have these never Trumpers. What are they trying to tell you for the first time in American history, where you've had someone who falls into the never category when it comes to a candidate in their own party? So Democrats, let's show up the vote. Let's get out here and champion a cause that we the people all the people. We're not just trying to show up, our Democratic voters, and not have no consideration for, the rest of America. We encourage, the president. We know that he's, for building the economy from the middle class out. We know that. And, we should expect our president, Joseph Biden, to go no further, when it comes to one of the biggest sticking points between Democrats and Republicans, which is taxes. We should want everyone to pay their fair share and try to eliminate any and all loopholes. We should want that. But, for the president to go, so far rogue left, and taxing the wealthy, or the way they like to say it, to tax the wealthy, and give that money back to lazy, irresponsible Americans in the form of entitlements. We don't want that as Democrats. And we have to stand on that. We have to be able to go out to the American people and articulate it plainly and clearly. And so, these are just right now in current political happenings in Democratic circles. These are the things that's going on. You're going to have, maybe a no labels bid for the presidency. Maybe, Dr. Cornel West. Maybe RFK. Maybe Jill Stein may throw a hat in the ring. Against a Democratic president, to possibly help the Republicans, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I mean, of course, you're going to hear that from the right. Oh, it's out of control. The country is going to hell. It's not that serious. But do we have work to do? Yes, of course. Democracy has always been a work in progress. No one president ever got into the Oval Office and said, I have nothing to do. I'm here for 4 years and I have nothing to do because my predecessor got it all done. You've never heard of such a thing. So, as Democrats, let's continue to keep our sleeves rolled up and stay busy doing the work of the American people. Now, one of the best things that we can do as Democratic politicians holding office right now, listen to the pulse of the people. And, we see that somewhat here at Soluble with the hot button issue of the Middle East. We see the young voters and we share the same position. I mean, look, here we have a state that's propped up in the middle of the Middle East, surrounded by hundreds of thousands of Arabs that has been put here by, supported by America and Great Britain. There's two sides to this story, and we can appreciate the young people coming out and voicing their concern. I mean, Hamas men, they did attack Israel on October the 7th. But we could never justify men attacking Israel on October the 7th and the state of Israel retaliating by bombing women and children. Where are the men, the real men in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force? We expect those real men to come forward as commandos, as snipers, as rangers, or what have you, and hunt down Hamas men. The brutality that's being inflicted upon women and children in these disproportionate numbers, we encourage our young voters to come forward and voice your concern. And, our position here at Soluble is we have every confidence that our commander-in-chief will listen. And, we should be trying to hold both sides firmly to begin the process of starting and finishing the two-state solution. This is what we should encourage. But to make my point to my young voters, it's a hot button topic right now. And we feel you. We feel the same passion here at Soluble. We are vehemently against the murder, bombing of innocent women and children. We're totally against it. And so, as I said, to my Democratic office holders, those who are in power right now, you have to listen. This is one of the best things, one of the most important things that we can do if we're going to hold on to power, you know, in 2024 and beyond, is we have to listen to the will of the American people. And you know, we at Soluble, we're watching, we're listening, you know, and we're willing to keep you informed. If President Biden, we feel like is doing something that hurts America, hurts the American people, we will bring it to your attention. And we welcome, you know, we have a comment section here for all those who may tune in, you know. And if you're not tuned in as we're live, you can always post something in the comments that we can read later, because it's going to take all of us, you know, to get through this. I mean, we're at a critical juncture here now. We're being attacked by you know, our own Mother Earth on a regular basis with wind, water, fire, and these are elements that, you know, regardless of which one it is, we as mankind, we have to back up. We have to move out of the way. We don't have a weapon for that. We don't have nothing that could stand up to those elements. Now, you know, is it too late to turn it around? You know, leading scientists, leading experts are saying we're at that critical juncture. And so, you know, say what you will, say what you may, it's on the ballot. And if you notice something, you hear less and less coming from the right that this is a once in a 100-year event. And so, you know, we have to bring it to those who are holding office. This is how the process is going to work for each and every one of us, is to get involved, to, you know, talk to your leaders, you know, whether it be in your district, you know, and enforce your concerns, because the government is we the people, and we have the power. Now, with the slim lead that, you know, our colleagues on the right have in the House, with the slim lead they have, like I said, you know, meaningful bills, meaningful legislation that can be brought to the floor, you know, that's going to help us all. We're waiting on it. We need it, you know, but let this be, you know, somewhat a sign or indication going into 2024. You know, what are our Republican colleagues doing with the majority that they have now? I mean, when it comes to the current president, Joseph R. Biden, if it's there, it's there. Give us the goods. You know, it does us a disservice if, you know, our Republican colleagues are holding this close to the vest until next year, when we're actually in the election year and things, you know, are beginning to pick up steam, moving towards the election of November of next year. But they have the majority here. And for the love of country, for the love of taxpayers' dollars, if there's something there, give it to us. Now, you know, from one controversy to another, you know, they ousted the speaker, they selected a speaker. The Freedom Caucus, you know, on the far right, they're making threats. You know, they don't want any cooperation with Democrats, and that's fine. That's part of the American way. That's why we have a system where, you know, you have to have 2/3 of a majority to rule. So if to my fellow Democrats here, if we have, you know, that small number, or however large it may be, Freedom Caucus members on the far right, that's fine. You know, if they have a burning passion, you know, for the American cause and what's happening in America, you know, as far as the deficit, out of control spending, bring it to the American people. Bring your idea. If you know there's time to pass another CR, you pay America's bills, and you have a better way of doing it, you know, we need to hear it. And if they do have that, this is to my fellow Democrats, we should take heed. We should lend it an ear. You know, so we have to rise above this party politics. even when Republicans can't or won't or don't. As Democrats who love country, we have to rise above in that situation where we have one of our colleagues on the right who is bringing forth a better idea when it comes to a spending resolution. And he makes the case we should give it a yes vote. We should give it our full support because we're here to serve our country first and foremost. So we're obligated by any means necessary to do what's best for country first. And one of those things to my fellow Democrats is to continue to be ready to rock this vote when it comes next year this time, November 2024. Be ready to show up in droves, in large numbers, so that you will have a voice and a say in the future of America. Now, while they're digging for dirt on the president, chasing down leads from what Hunter may or may not have done, we have they finally come up with a vote to expel Congressman George Santos, so that will give him a little less power. Now we see what he got in with, lies, falsehoods, saying he was here when he was there, saying he was up when he was down. And everything is, one big fabrication. We really don't know, the essence of who George Santos is as of right now. And, our colleagues on the right are begrudgingly, and that's real important to understand. They're begrudgingly getting rid of it, and he's bad, and he's really, sadly and regrettably, he's really right there on the same parallel as the former president. And so, I don't know how you square that, but we as Democrats, we have to see that and we have to call it out. They're willing to expel Santos, but they're not willing to impeach the former president. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to have it both ways. One is just as corrupt as the other. One is just as corrupt as the other. So this is not something like Sophie's Choice or something like that. They're both, on the same level of corruption. They're both on the same level. So as Democrats, we need to definitely keep that in mind. We need to definitely keep that in mind. If it's bad over here, then it should be bad in general. It can't just be bad for, the individual based on his likability or his favorability. Now we notice here, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was at the last election, where candidate Ramaswamy brought up the fact that former Ambassador Haley's child was, on TikTok, and that was a personal shot. That went somewhat personal, and the American people watched. As former Ambassador Haley, she denounced it, and then she labeled it as scum. She labeled it as scum. Now, here's what's important that we need to look at, so that this thing is uniform. Because if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. So Ramaswamy takes a personal shot when it comes to former Ambassador Haley's family member, and he's scum. And by most accounts, the Republican candidates who are on the stage, former Governor Christie, Governor DeSantis, they agreed. They agreed that it was out of bounds. Now here's the kicker. And here's what Democrats, what we must take note and not forget. Once again, the former president has done the same thing. He's taking personal shots at people's family members. Senator Cruz's wife. He's talked about the Bushes. He don't mind taking personal shots. Yet Ramaswamy is scum, and the president, as far as former Ambassador Haley is concerned, was the right man for the right time. How do we square that and run our country, with the belief that no one's above the law, and it's all the same level playing field here. So Democrats, we have to think about how we know that that's dangerous. We know that that's very hypocritical and dangerous and wayward. Where do you stand on this issue? If candidate Ramaswamy is scum, and of course, former Ambassador Haley was the only one who actually used the word scum. Let's be clear there. She was the only one who actually used the word. But the point I'm trying to make here is the former president, Donald J. Trump, has done the same thing. And he's gotten even more in the mud than what candidate Ramaswamy has. But he's the right man for the right time. There's no way these two things can be the same. There's no way these two things can be one and the same. If one is scum, then the other is scum. Because they're both doing the same thing. So, as Democrats, we see the double talk. We see the double speak here. And what it should do is make us sit up and really pay attention. And see the importance of why we need to, get our people out for the sake of really saving America. The former president come forth with, a campaign slogan and a motto and a presidential agenda of making America great again. But we're going to have to come forth, for this 2024 election and turn out in droves and big numbers with the intention in our heart of saving America. That's where we're at. Unless our colleagues on the right can give us, a clear position. There's no evidence. The witnesses that they have brought forth in this so-called two-tier system, the witnesses that they have brought forth have said it themselves. There's nothing there that rises to the level of impeachment of a current sitting president. And this is not something, impeachment is not something that we have enshrined into law, in order to bring rogue leaders under control. It's something that we can, go tit for tat with or play with it as if, it was some kind of back and forth game. Because it's not. It's there to protect the republic from anyone who may go out of bounds, based on the system of checks and balances that we have. And so, this is a party that is really trying to find its moral compass. When we see things like, candidate Ramaswamy is scum, and you have the former president doing the same thing, even worse, but yet he's the right man for the right time. How do you square that? How do you square that? And this is to my fellow Democrats. There's no way to square it. There's no way you can take that square peg and put it in a round hole. But nevertheless, that's what the Republicans are going to try to do and sell it to you as a great fit. See, we got it through. See, we got the square peg in the round hole. There's no way. So beware of the smoke and mirrors, the smooth words, the well-polished words. President Biden right now, he's pushing back, on an ally, which is Israel. He's pushing back and letting them know that, you can't just be blanket bombing, just bombing with reckless abandon. He's letting them know. And as Democratic voters in this country, if he's not saying it loudly and forcefully enough, then it's up to us to get in his ear and remind him that, we sent you there and we can reject you also. Just like the former President Trump got rejected. We can reject you in 4 years, after 4 years, or we can give you another 4. We have to let him know that. More than anything, that's one of our main weaknesses as Democrats. We're not forceful enough with the message. we'll say it, you know. But when we say it, we have to say it in a way that makes the American people believe in it. And there's no trickery involved. We have to say it like we mean it and say it like we know there's some there behind it. Or don't say it at all. Or don't say it at all. Because this is what's going to cause, the voters to sour on we the people, or having a Democratic president sitting in the Oval Office. Now, in this so-called two-tier system, which we know is not, here is Congressman Santos. What is the evidence shown? What is it shown? Stealing of campaign funds. On top of all the other unethical things that he's done. This is what the evidence is shown. And so the system works. The system still works. If there's, as I said, if there's evidence that the president has been involved with underhand shenanigans with Hunter, his son, if he's been using the position of power for influence, dealing with foreign companies abroad, where is the evidence? But here you have our Republican colleagues saying that, it's a two-tier system. That only applies if they produce the evidence, and the current President Biden, has still been exonerated. He's been let off the hook, even though the evidence of wrongdoing is there. Then we can say it's a two-tier system. Until then, Democrats, we have to block this out as just an irritating noise, because that's all it is. Santos is getting ready to be expelled because the evidence, and that's real important here, because the evidence shows that he's unfit to serve, that he's a fraud. That's what the evidence shows. Now, it remains to be seen, going forward. Right now, and it's, it seems as if the congressman is ready to get into, tawdry affairs of his fellow colleagues, because now he's already saying something to the effect of they're getting drunk and trying to decide which lobbyists that they're going to sleep with, and this is happening on a regular basis. Why now? Why now? And we don't need this as the American people. There are too many other important issues out here to try to be getting into tawdry affairs that may or may not be happening with congressmen, senators, or what have you on the Hill. And as the American people well know, if it's happening, it'll catch up with them. Just like it has, Congressman Santos. Just like it did Senator Menendez. And just like it did with former President Donald J. Trump. If there's evidence of wrongdoing, by and by, it will catch up with them. But here you have Congressman Santos. Reality TV come to Washington, D.C. He's the same as the president of that party. Former President Trump, it's the same thing. Falsehoods, misleading the public. The former president is going through it right now, somewhere in a courtroom in Manhattan. Books are cooked, falsifying documents. So, it's all right now seems to be par for the course. Seems to be par for course, in dealing with our Republican political leaders. If Senator Menendez is doing it, as Democrats, we call him out. He's been asked to step down. But, the senator has every right as an American to use all the tools at his disposal in this republic, in this democracy, to have his day in court. And by all accounts, that's what he seems to be doing. But, unlike former President Trump and his Republican colleagues around him, Democrats have come together as one. Even, the senator, his fellow senator from the same state, Senator Booker, They've come forward and advised Senator Menendez to resign. Now, whether he's done it or not, that's a different story. But here's the difference in between the two parties. And so, you'll have our colleagues on the right, when something is called out that they're doing, they're quick to say that, and it. They're quick to say that, well, it's both sides. It's both parties. Who's called out the former president? In the same numbers that Democratic politicians have come forward in to call out Senator Menendez, to ask him to resign. Who, they've made, veiled comments. They've been very vague about it, when they ask, well, will you vote for the president? If he's the nominee, well, you hear him say, well, the president's not going to be the nominee. Before he dropped out of the race, you hear former Vice President Pence saying it. Anytime he was asked, would he cast a vote for him? But the president's not going to be, he's not going to be the nominee. The American people, they're going to make a decision, and I'm confident that, this, that, and the third. Instead of just yes or no, if by chance he's the nominee, no, I would not vote for him. And that's the difference. There's no two tiers here. There's no two tiers unless they're falling out of your eyes because you don't have power, because you lost the vote. Those are the only tiers. There are no two tiers as it relates to different levels of prosecution. Levels of favorability where someone gets prosecuted and then another one doing the same thing doesn't. Democrats have come forward in substantial numbers and asked Senator Menendez to step down and resign. Now, who can we say has done the same thing in the same numbers? You see our fellow Republicans running for the exits. Former Congressman Corker from Tennessee, former Senator Flake from Arizona. You see them tuck and tail instead of standing up for democracy's sake in defense of the republic, to call out the former president when he's wrong. When he's wrong. Our fellow Democrats, we're letting President Biden know how we feel about the situation in the Middle East. We're letting him know how we feel about climate change. We're letting him know how we feel about a woman's rights. And the president is listening. He's listening. And so we have to push back each and every time with each and every example that we see it. Evidence of wrongdoing, as far as people who were formerly in the president's circle, his former fixer, Michael Cohen, one of his bookkeepers, Weisselberg. There's evidence there. By the same token, Congressman Santos, the investigation has revealed treatments for Botox, subscriptions to OnlyFans, spending on lavish vacations, paying his personal bills. The evidence is there. They followed the money. And if our fellow Republicans have any evidence, then they would bring it forward and let justice prevail. But they have nothing. And so what do now? They sow seeds of discord. Now, if this is a party that's for country, and it starts to realize, because the reality on the ground is that the demographics are changing. And so, the $100,000, $1 million question is, can Republicans change with them? And no one is saying, you have to compromise everything that you've ever believed in. But, you get power, you get put in office in this country by votes. And so it remains to be seen if they can make the case, that wins over the American voter when it comes to climate change, the opioid crisis, the crisis at the southern border, jobs. We've discussed that, but we're going to touch on it briefly, especially going into next year. Right now, there is a celebratory time of the year. So opposition here is soluble just to communicate with the people, and we need to get ready. And we're just simply trying to, highlight and point out what is actually going on with both parties. What is actually going on with both parties? And, as the world turns, President Biden has his sleeves rolled up, and despite these ageism attacks, the president is defying the odds. There's no there. He's talked with Xi Jinping. He's looking at the situation in Ukraine and Israel. He noted there's work to do here at home when it comes to lowering prices. Have you seen gas prices this low? When is the last time? It's been a while. Gas prices are low. And by all, economic indicators, inflation is slowly but surely being tamed. And that's the way it is. But our position here is soluble, as always. We're trying to solve here. This is not about partisan politics. We feel that, the Democrats that we have sent up to Washington are doing a good job. But as we've stated, if the Republicans have something better, which Trump's good, if they have something better, then we're all ears. And right now, as of this moment, we have yet to see it. We have yet to see it. For them to explain to us what are they actually going to do? What is their position on the southern border? When it comes to trying to get common sense, comprehensive immigration passed. What is the plan? This is what we should be all ears for, not, fear mongering, putting out false accusations just to score points with the voters. And then once you get in office, it's not an issue anymore. Before the 2022 midterms, the southern border was all the rage. We didn't have a border. Based on what our colleagues on the right were saying. And the first thing that they did with their majority was go after the IRS. You mean to tell me that there's a crisis on the southern border that's so severe, but yet the first thing that you do when you get power is attack the IRS? How do these two things correlate? How do they go together? Do we have the IRS some kind of way secretly funding, Hispanics and our neighbors on the south of the border? Are they financing this, this mass exodus towards the southern border? How do these two things relate? And this is what you have to look closely for and look closely at. They're campaigning on one thing, but then once they get power, they're doing something totally opposite. So what is the emergency? How much of an urgency is there at the southern border? Is it really as serious as they make it out to be? How will they tie, going after the IRS is one of the first things that they do when they get in power to, it's going to help us at the southern border by attacking the IRS. So this is very voter beware. And, 'tis the season to be jolly, and, peace on earth and goodwill towards men. And it's not just a season. It should be year round, because we're here to serve humanity. And that's our mission here at Soluble, is to put it all out there from the right, the left, the center, independent, or what have you, to make it more simpler, to break it down to you, to get you to be able to see the forest and the trees. Because, if we're not careful, if we're not, alert to what's going on, it could be a Democrat or a Republican, where they want to have their cake and eat it too. And, we can, never allow that to happen. We don't want, trust and faith in government to further erode. So our goal is to put it all out there as factual as we possibly can. And we welcome any opposing view, because at the end of the day, it's all about solving, the current political climate that we find ourselves in, and getting back to partisanship and reaching across the aisles like we've always done. And that's what really and truly makes America great again. So until the next time, we know that the election, another debate is coming up right here at the 1st of December. We're not sure about the exact date, but we'll be back on the air again, I'm quite sure, before that actual debate takes place, to give you a more precise date. And in the meantime, going into 2024, which is going to be, a hot, really hot election year. And, trying to decide which direction this country is going to go for the next 4 years. We intend to bring it all to you, break it down to you issue by issue, to keep you informed. Because, at the end of the day, we're here to solve. This is not about partisan politics. This is not about likes and clickbait. This is to tell it like it is to the American people. And then, hopefully we can have you better informed, so you can make, that decision as to the candidate of your choice, and what you think will be, best going forward for the United States of America. That's going to do it for this podcast edition. We thank you for joining us tonight here at Soluble. As always, we're here to inform and to, have you to keep an open mind. And at the end of the day, we hope that we can, above all things, solve the current, tension that we see in our everyday politics, and get back to governing and reaching across the aisle. So until the next time, this is Soluble signing off. We thank you for joining us tonight. Until the next time, good night and God bless. This is Soluble signing off. Thank you.